Hello all and welcome. In previous session, we have seen how we have created our models for album and track and connected to our database. In this session, we will create a controller for our album model. So let's get started. Before creating controller, I will create a utility function which will format our response. So let's create utils. In this, I will create now in response util. We have an interface which is a base API response which has success as boolean and error as string or undefined. Now after that, we have an API response which extends our base API response, and we pass our data because now the actual API response will have success, error, and data as as its parameter, and it return this JSON object. So in this way, we will get a proper formatted formatted API response from all our controllers. So let's save it, and now let's create our controller in this album controller. Now here I have album controller object which have multiple functions. This controller is will called when we have to create a new album. So it will take as the data request body data from request body as album type like name, thumbnail URL, and release date. And we will check if if name is not empty or not null. If it's empty, then we will return API response as a success is false, and error as album name is required. In this way, we will get consistent API response from our controller. Now, if everything is gone right, then we will create our album with album model and return response as album, which is recently created here. Now, in edit album function, we will first here also we have to process the thumbnail file, the file which is coming for thumbnail. So this new album controller will be a post request along with the file and data. Now edit album also be the same. It has the album ID for update and data as album body. So here also we will check for name, and if everything goes right, then we will use Mongo's find by ID and update function to update our document by ID and setting our data. And we will use new to true because we want the latest updated data in our response. And we will use lean and exe. Lean is used when we want only pure data, no any function associated with that. So we will as return the updated album. Now list albums will list all the albums in our database. Also we will use pagination, how much record first we want in each page, and a page number. Like I am using query album query. I'm not using await keyword here, so it will create a query with limit and skip. So it will skip this some amount of records, and same lean and exe. Now for count query, we will use count document method of Mongoose. So now we will now after that we will use promise.all fetch parallelly in some database. So we will get count album and count. Return the response as album, and pagination as first total page will calculate. After that current page. So after that get album detail, it will find the album and return the album. Now let's create our album route. Album route. Now, first we will import routers from Express and album controller from our controller. I will create album controller, which is an instance of router, and we will add put request as the endpoint new, and map our controller's new album for new endpoint, and edit we will use our album ID while editing list and detail. This will complete our album route. So let's save it, and also I'll create another route for index route. Now, in index route, all other routes will be mapped to API route, like our domain name slash API slash album route slash track route slash artist route. All the routes will be begin from API. So let's create a index route first. So also same as previously, we will import a router, album router, which we created earlier here, and creating an index router, and we are using use function of router to add album slash album router. Now let's register this index route in our app as a API endpoint. So in config in app, now we will import index router from route slash index router. So this will register index router for API endpoint. So now let's run this and test our controller. Okay, our database is connected and server is started. So let's test it. First, I will create a new folder. So to test our album API route, I have created a folder named as REST, and in that I have created album.http. We will use HTTP client. So let's send a request. We are getting 200 requests, which means we are successfully getting data, because in our database there is no any album data, so it only a 200 response. Let's create a some album. To test our post request, I have created a post request on album slash create with content type application JSON, and body as name and thumbnail URL. So now let's send this request and let's see what will be the output. Connection was rejected. Service isn't running on the requested port. In list album in response dot, it's not a JSON. It will be a status. That's why I was getting error of 200, and the server was crashing like that. Test this out again. So first of all, let me restart. Okay, server is restarted, and we have this response. So let's send a request. Now we are getting 200 OK response, along with data as success true, data as album empty. Pagination is null because we don't have any data in that. Now let's create an album. Now we got something new error, or cannot post to album slash create. Okay, we have new instead of creating. Instead of create, so album slash new. Now let's send this request again. Okay, this time we have created successfully. You can see that success to true, data as in this, and we got a whole album data in our response. Edit slash uh, edit slash we have ID of this this album. After that, new era updated, and the example see text updated. Okay, now let's test it again. So we'll send a put request. Sorry, this time. So let's send this request, and we got 200 created. Actually, it should be a 200, and mm, and we got a response as success to true. Let's fix this 201 request. Sorry, 201 response. So we'll go in our controller. In update controller, we have 200. Okay, now it is fixed. So let's check our delete route also. So sorry, get album detail route also. In detail route, we are sending album ID as query parameter. So let's test it. I'm sending request, and here we got 200 request along with success to true and complete album data.